Hello everyone, this is part 5 of What If Deku Married Jirou, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Having cried her eyes out as much as she could, Jirou spent the rest of that day at Izuku's room for a second time. Her last explorations with the blindfold came to a close just past midnight. Turning on a playlist which softly played a Bill Evans album, they both reflected on the encounter with Uraraka. Izuku couldn't have felt more at a loss as to his next plan of action. A friend that had been there for him since before day one at UA was now distant, hurt, and he was partially responsible. Now he really was going to have to explain everything, maybe even as early as the next school day. As Mika had told Jirou, it did not go well. Of course it didn't. She asked Izuku to be her boyfriend without consulting her on the matter, neglecting to tell her being too drunk on happiness. Like the unspoken, colloquially known, bro code, what she did was tantamount to treachery of the highest order amongst girls. She had apologized as sincerely as she could for doing so, but the guilt continued to persist like echoes, making her shift around in unease, clicking her jacks together even more frequently than usual. The couple sat on the bed leaning into each other's backs while intertwining their fingers. For the longest time, the comfort of company contended with the cloud of guilt hanging above them. Outside, however, the sun shone in a cloudless, immaculately azure sky, as if to mock them. They remained in silence for the longest time except for when they took turns breathing in and sighing heavily. Izuku finally broke the silence as he leaned his head back. Kyoka. I know saying this won't do much, but, you did what you could do for damage control. I mean, your mom is right. It may not feel like it, and it doesn't yet to me, but. Yeah, I know. I'm the one that acted first, yada yada yada. I heard you the first time. But it's just, I still feel like shit. Even after learning that Todoroki quoted Kung Fu Panda to give you advice. The more you learn, right? Izuku chuckled softly as he tightened his grip on Jirou's hand. But I understand how hard it can be. Letting go of the past as something unchangeable. Especially with, people. Like with you, and Bakugo. She felt Izuku stiffen through her hand upon hearing that name. Yeah, we have a rather colorful history, to say the least. Jirou's lips curved into a smile as she felt his lips on her knuckles for a few seconds. Gross understatement of the century, nerd boy. I mean, when I first wanted to become a hero, I was in halfway through my first year in middle school when I decided my career path. It took me over a year to come out to my parents that I wasn't going to the music industry and I was scared shitless. I broke down crying in front of them. They let you do what you wanted to though. Or else you wouldn't be here. I was so relieved, but I felt so stupid that I worried so much about it. They told me I could do what I like, just like they do what they do because they like doing it, that it wasn't their place to judge me for doing the same. I liked the idea of doing it, it looked cool, and I wanted to be good at it. That's all I really had and according to them all I needed. For the beginning, at least. Sounds like you have great, open-minded parents. As expected from a family of artists. Shut up. Kyoka lightly elbowed him in the side, but kissed Izuku's scarred knuckles immediately after that as she subtly glowed with pride. That was my dad. My mom said that music and hero work share the same principle in terms that you think hard about what you can bring to people with what you do. Wow. That's very deep. I actually might want to meet your parents. Oh number. No you are not. No. They are not going to lay eyes on you until at least a month later. I didn't mean this weekend. But I'm starting to think that your parents' words applies to relationships as well. How so? Well, you think about what you can do for the other person and what you can give them. Not just what the other person wants, but something they want that they didn't even realize until they receive it. And whatever that is, however the relationship happens, you can't be afraid of how other people will judge you for it. If you're happy, that's all you need. I see your point, but that sounds super egotistical. I beg to differ. If you like someone, and I mean, really like someone, to the point where you want to marry them or something, it's You're basically entrusting that person with your entire being, which is arguably more than just your life. You show them everything. Your weaknesses, insecurities, shortcomings, attitude on a bad day, everything. Then they do the same to you and you accept each other, including the imperfections. It's the highest degree of trust you can give, so it's anything but selfish in my opinion. Quote, Ugh. Alright, fine. You win. Jirou muttered as she blew her bangs out of her face. Damn your rhetoric and analytical skills. For rhetoric, I have you to thank. I barely stutter from being nervous anymore, so thank you for changing me for the better. As for analysis, it's what I do. Izuku peppered her knuckles with a couple more kisses. Jirou squirmed as tingles ran up her arm and into her neck. Hey, turn around. Sure. They faced each other and instinctively leaned in for a kiss. It was not anything like they traded on the night of their confession, where passions had reached a smoldering apex but rather a tender, slow burn. Placing a hand on her shoulder, Izuku's thumb stroked her collarbone, which made her hum and pull him in closer by his hair. Jirou's other hand sneaked its way underneath his shirt, caressing his chiseled abs and eventually his back with feathery touches of her fingertips. He returned the favor but his hand traveled southward, massaging her curves gently which caused her to gasp, raking her nails along his shoulder blade. With a hiss, Izuku's body stiffened at the sudden flash of pain as his grip on her backside strengthened. Sorry, Izuku gasped as he peeled his lips away from her. Need to dial it down. I still love you though. Right, yeah, she panted hoarsely, and I love me as well. Izuku snorted as he rolled his eyes. I'm kidding, geez. I love you too, nerd boy. Sitting cross-legged, Jirou motioned him to lie down and rest his head on her legs. He complied, staring at her face turned upside down as she played with his hair. Is your shoulder okay? Sorry about that. I'll be fine. Izuku growled quietly in his throat in comfort. This is new. It's comfy though. I'm doing it, so it better be. She retorted in a mock indignant tone before kissing him lightly on the forehead. Kyoka, can you do me a favor? Yeah, I want to hear you sing. Jirou felt her cheeks grow warm upon hearing those words. Her hands instinctively reached for the jacks which she began clicking together. Okay, yeah, sure. Do you have any particular requests? No, just something. Anything at all that comes to your mind. Alright, here goes. Gathering her thoughts on all the song lyrics that she knew by heart, she sifted through them and began going through them, one by one, Izuku joining in every now and then. They had no instrument to play along with, but that was of little consequence. For him, hearing Jirou sing was more than enough to almost lull him to sleep. By the time they ran out of songs, it was almost midnight. Feeling a slight rumble in his stomach, Izuku sat up. You up for a snack? Sure. They stepped out of the room and carefully closed the door, only to come into full view of Tokoyami who was holding a large platter of apple pie that was half finished. Late night gorging? He asked without so much as batting an eye. More a snack than anything, but yeah. Did you actually eat half of that? A quarter. The other quarter Dark Shadow partook. It was quite refreshing, and the cinnamon was bracing. Thank you, Jirou. She simply shrugged. Hey, deal's a deal, right? Glad you like it. Would you too like a slice? Wait, I got you that as a return for the favor I asked you and you're giving some of that to us. Doesn't that kinda defeat the purpose? I am well aware. But now that Dark Shadow's craving has been satisfied, at least temporarily, I won't have to eat more of this. Don't misunderstand, the taste is unmistakably exquisite. However, that being said, even if it is stored in a fridge, I am not confident that I will be able to finish all of this before it goes bad. Hence the offer. Izuku and Jirou looked at each other and shrugged simultaneously. I don't see why not, they said in unison. Perfect, Tokoyami uttered quietly as the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. It came with several paper plates. Give me a moment. Disappearing behind his door, he re-emerged from his near-pitch black room lit by eerie purple lights with 2 paper plates, a slice of apple pie and a plastic fork resting on each of them. Awesome. Thanks. You are very welcome. And while it may be none of my business, as someone that was involved in, well, that matter, I would like to offer a candid opinion. If you'd like to lend an ear, that is. Sure. But could we, not do this in the hallway then? As they accepted the plates, the couple followed Tokoyami, who wordlessly motioned them to enter before closing the door. I personally think, you botched it. Utterly. How so? Izuku asked slowly after a pause. The fact that you had people other than yourselves present. Tokoyami slowly exhaled as he sat down in his chair. Yaoyorozu is a good friend of yours, Jirou, and Todoroki has gotten close to Midoriya. I would like to consider myself your friend as well, but I am not on the level of Todoroki, which puts me on neutral ground at best in terms of partiality to you or Uraraka. And at least in Uraraka's mind, you are undoubtedly on her side, Midoriya. You and only you, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Bringing everyone else is equivalent to bringing a firing squad to a peace summit. I didn't mean it that way. I was still scared. I am not blaming you or anyone. Like I said, this is a candid opinion and nothing more. But be that as it may, the intervention of third parties partial to either one of you led to passive-aggressively strong-arming Uraraka to accept this peace treaty. Which is why she lashed out. Izuku slapped himself in the face. God, I'm such an idiot. So, I go to her at some point again at this week, and I do this one-on-one. That'll solve this. Right. Jirou stared at Tokoyami with an expectant look. If the steps had been taken the other way round, then yes, perhaps. But, I am afraid it will not be so easy now. I would give it another few days before you attempt to engage her. Perhaps ask a friend mutual to the three of you that has no stake in this predicament you are in, relatively equivalent in closeness if not more partial to Uraraka. Mutual friend. Jirou began pondering, but Izuku cut her thinking short in a matter of seconds. Asui. That's the only person I can think of that says what's on their mind all the time, no matter who it is, without offending anyone. For the most part, we could go to her tomorrow. Alright. Sounds like a plan. You see, this is why it pays to have a tactician on board. Thanks. We definitely needed that advice. Jirou said as she gave the bird-headed teen a hearty smack on the back. Oh, and I'll make sure to put a good word in her ear about you. Tokoyami's face contorted itself into a look of utter perplexity as he turned to her. I have no idea why the thought of doing such a thing would cross your mind. Oh, come on, you two got past ectoplasm during exams. You're a reliable guy. I appreciate the sentiment, but I would appreciate it even more if you didn't interfere with my social circle, thank you very much. Alright, it was just a thought. But seriously, thank you so much, Tokoyami. For the pie and, for this. Tokoyami merely nodded and lightly motioned him to leave so he can sleep. As he heard the door close, he let out a deep sigh and flopped onto the bed. Oh, the things I do for friendship. It's what we do, man. Dark Shadow chided. Shut up. Guess this means our date plan needs to be put on hold. Izuku sighed as he took a bite out of the apple pie at his desk, which was surprisingly tasty, especially with the aftertaste of cinnamon. Only until we fix this. Jirou squeezed her boyfriend's shoulder reassuringly as she took a gander at his pouty face, which she had never seen until now. It reminded her of a grumpy, fluffy cat, making him seem all the more adorable. We'll figure it out, okay? Look, I want to go on this date as badly as you do. You're the smart guy here, an idea will come to us eventually. I mean, you didn't even have to think to pull Sue's name out of the hat. So smart that I neglected to think of the simplest approach of just going to her with you and nobody else. Instead I went for the needlessly elaborate which blew up in our faces. On top of that, we needed someone to point it out. Cramming what was left of the pie on the plate in his mouth, Izuku swallowed, barely chewing a dozen times. I mean, I appreciate the fact you have confidence in my strategy making, but I honestly feel like I'm about to tread through the minefield of the sports festival. With live mines, and other booby traps. Good times. You literally went flying and rolling before you finished the run to first place, from what I heard. Oh, yeah, I wasn't really thinking in a way that Mr. Aizawa would call rational in those moments. Just, the fastest way to get ahead everyone. And I was given 10 million reasons to regret my decision. Hey, it worked. And for tomorrow, I'll go talk to Sue, give her the details. You don't want me to go with you. Yes and no. Having you around is comforting, but I just feel bad making you do all the brain work. We'll sort this out together, but only after I talk to her. So just, don't do anything until then, okay? Sure. And, as much as it pains me to say this, we really should work hard to dial back our, intimacy, to a minimum. At least until this is done. The mere utterance of those words made Jirou wince slightly as her heart ached a little. I understand. Let's think of it as avoiding instant gratification and we let it build up. So, an experiment. Kinda, yeah. Alright, let's do it. Oh, but before I go, can I ask you a favor? What? Can I borrow your hoodie? The one that's hanging on your chair. Do I want to know what for, exactly? He asked, folding it up and cautiously holding it out towards her. Just shut up and gimme the hoodie, nerd boy. Snatching the olive drab hoodie from Izuku, Jirou left after a fierce kiss. Izuku patiently waited in his room as he began his set of calisthenics for the day until his phone rang about 10 minutes before noon. Hello. Ribbit, Midoriya, it's me. So, you know what happened. Okiko didn't leave her room for dinner last night and there was no answer when I knocked on her door at night or this morning, so I assumed as much. I'm sorry that we had to rope you into this. I'm really scared I might be making things worse, honestly. I'm actually glad you came to me. And well, Tokoyami isn't exactly known for poor judgment. Unlike the grappist. Jirou interjected with a snicker over her shoulder. But honestly, I don't think I or anyone else should intervene. You already had people there the first time and it didn't go well. Although on a smaller scale, you're trying to do the same thing as last time. You do know Einstein's quote about madness, right? Right. So what you're saying is we need a different approach. Got it. I know you didn't exactly get off on the right foot, but regardless, congratulations to both of you. Thank you, Asui. Call me Sue. Ribbit. Right. Sue. Again, thank you so much. You're welcome. Ending the call, the gears in Izuku's mind began whirring and grinding furiously as he wondered how he and Jirou were going to do this. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, think. Think. Best way of approach, definitely not casually, definitely not in the open. After class. No. Too many eyes then. Right after getting back to the dorms. Yeah, probably the better alternative. Taking a piece of scrap paper, he began scribbling down some thoughts on it, crossing some lines out and replacing them while his other hand fished another piece of scrap paper out of the trash can. Sue, are you really sure about this? A little late to back out now, don't you think? You were the one that asked in the first place and the proverbial ball is in your court now, Ribbit. I know. I just feel guilty for not letting Izuku in on this. And having you help in cleaning up our mess. I want all you to be happy, which is easier said than done, but I do. As for Midoriya, well, he's smart, but he tends to get a little too involved in things from what I can tell in the months I've spent at UA getting to know him. Plus, statistically speaking his go-to approach is the path of least resistance or even a passive one. The direct path isn't something he goes for often unless that's the option or it's an emergency. Let's see what a girl's touch can accomplish. I will agree to talk to her and I won't tell Okiko you came to me, but promise me one thing. Name it. Don't ask what I discuss with her. Yeah, of course. The story of someone's life being turned upside down in a single day was something Uraraka had ever experienced through pages of a novel, like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson, but this was unbearable. If only this was a fictional story that could be edited, redacted, retconned, or rewritten even. Her thoughts kept bouncing around four things: anger, hurt, heartbreak and remorse. Anger at Jirou for what she did. Hurt because of it, and because Izuku had accepted it, defended it. Defended her. It broke her heart, seeing the development of her chances with her first crush wither and die before her very eyes. But that didn't excuse lashing out at anyone, much less physically, which is exactly what she had done. Something unbecoming of one aspiring to become a hero, someone who fights for others, when it was also her own fault for not acting on her feelings and just spit out the words declaring her affection for him. And the cycle continued, endlessly, for the past 4 days now. Everything seemed so pointless. She still got assignments done on time, but she didn't bother putting in as much effort as she always did, checking over her work and such. Uraraka kept telling herself it wasn't his fault. Izuku was free to choose whomever he likes as his girlfriend. But she could never convince herself that she couldn't help feeling betrayed at least a little bit. She was the one that had known him since before day one at UA. She had brought about the Copernican revolution to the name Deku, which had now become his codename that he came up with and presented to the class. She had been an asset in getting to the finals in the sports festival, and everything else. Her and no one else. Smacking her face into the pillow, Uraraka sighed. Who was she kidding? She was sounding like a psychotic egotistical bitch now. Maybe not as psychotic as Toga, but still, it was enough to make her feel disgusted about these thoughts running through her head. Her lethargic session of self-hate and degradation was interrupted by a knock. Slowly rising, Uraraka dragged her feet as she opened the door to her room to see a familiar froggy face of her friend Asui with a look of concern on her face, one that almost everyone, save Bakugo, sported when they saw her. Hey, Sue. Ribbit. Can I come in? Just for a bit. I'm really not in the mood for talking. You don't need to talk if you don't want to. I actually just want you to listen for the most part, actually. 5 minutes, and I'll leave you alone. With a small nod, Uraraka acquiesced, opening the door wider and sidestepping so Asui could enter. They sat across from each other with the small wooden table in between. Like the most of the people in our class, I know about your crush on Midoriya. And from the looks of it, you're not taking it well with him being with Jirou. But let me tell you something. You're not the only one that's heartbroken. Say what? It's far slighter and infinitely mild in my case, so I already got over it no problem, but I previously did have a crush on Midoriya. Wait, you did. Really? You? MMHMM. I'm a girl just as much as you are, Okako. But I get it, who would have thought, right? Back at USJ when Mineta and I were flung into the shipwreck zone, he was the one that came up with a plan to not only escape but apprehend the villains in one fell swoop. Broke 2 fingers for his trouble. Then he tried to intercept Shigaraki when his hand was barely half an inch away from my face. Midoriya may not have saved the day like All Might, but he did save me. I think that was when I thought, I actually might like this guy. Quote. Why didn't you say anything to him? I just didn't have the time. Asui shrugged. I have schoolwork, school events, and back home I have to take care of my brother and sister when my parents aren't there. And I was pretty confident that I won't be able to juggle a romantic relationship in that mix. Way too taxing. Besides, I had time to think after that. If I liked him, romantically, then why? And I was able to come up with some pretty specific reasons. How does that relate to not confessing? I'm getting to it, hang on. Asui chuckled, a single finger stroking her own chin. I'm just a girl that's had what I thought was a crush, so I can't really offer an empirical framework on what constitutes true romantic attraction, but if there are specific reasons that you like someone, be it physical features or their mentality, that's just liking those specific aspects of them, not the whole person. You're not liking them for them. That is, unless you go out of your way to actively find out for yourself. Is this making sense? Okay, I think I get it, kind of. Uraraka scrunched her face up, trying to make sense of her friend's words as she slowly digested them. Well, I mean, let's face it, we were all scared out of our minds facing actual villains. It was an extraordinary situation in which we happened to come out on top. My heart was pounding, Midoriya was there, and I thought to myself, he just saved my life from certain death, and even went to save All Might. He's someone that's brave and reckless but inspires what it means to be a hero. Therefore, I actually might like him. Personally, once I reflected on whether I actually liked him or not at a later date, I thought I sounded absolutely insane. So I just figured it was a misattribution of arousal. And you let it go. Yup. Ribbit. And you're okay with that. I mean, even if it was a misattribution, even if it would be too much to juggle in life, wouldn't you at least want to take a shot at it? Well, love has made people do crazy things. I could have, but I just didn't. There wasn't much of an impetus, I guess. I like him, I do. He's a good friend, we respect each other and I'm just fine with that. I've made my peace with it. Who knows, maybe 5-10 years from now, an old flame or two will get stoked between him and me, but we'll never know till we get there. Uraraka chuckled at that. Well, you'd be Team Green if that ever happened. Then that'll make you Team Green Tea then, Okako. Asui's remark sent her into a full-blown laugh as her friend covered her mouth to try and fail stifling it. I can't imagine what it's like to not have someone reciprocate how you feel about them, especially if it's the very first person you felt like this, but what's done is done. Jirou may have things you don't have, but you have things that she doesn't have, and not seeing that in you is Midoriya's loss, isn't it? It's too late if he comes crawling back to you later. I guess. But what do I do now? I can't exactly look them in the eye in good conscience after I told her I hate her. And I punched her. In the face. Oh. Asui's eyebrows perked up upon hearing this new information. Well, I mean, the damage isn't permanent, so a proper apology should suffice. I can go with if you want whenever you're ready. Then what? You'll figure something out. I can't give you the answers to everything, you know. But before he became a crush, Midoriya was your very first friend in UA, right? Yeah, he was. And he still is. At least I'm pretty sure he feels that way about you. He still cares about you very much. Ribbit. So, what? I give them my blessing or something. Threaten him half-jokingly that if she doesn't make him happy I'll take him for myself. Asui had to pause at that example, but upon seeing Uraraka smile, she knew she'd been had just then. Something more within the bounds of good taste and propriety, but sure, as long as it helps you move beyond it, anything. You can't be mad at Midoriya, Jirou, or yourself forever. You're going to implode, and I imagine it won't end well. Gorge on the new chocolate mochi stuffed donut at Dunkin's or something, work out, anything that you can possibly imagine. Looking at the clock on the wall, Asui stood up. Well, that was, actually way over 5 minutes, so I'll leave you alone now. Hey, Sue. Yes, thank you for telling me all of that. I know you said you've gotten over it, but still, it's gotta take a lot to come out with that sort of thing. And I'm so sorry for making you worry, I mean. Heroes help one another and friends should do the same as well. We need our laid-back girl happy or the class just feels bleak. Ribbit. Izuku was getting very close to losing his damn mind. When Jirou said to cut back on the PDA, he did not expect going close to full-on cold turkey. She wouldn't even let him so much as hold her hand for more than 30 seconds a day. It was like rations in a POW camp. The frustration was destroying his sleep cycle, his ability to study and play chords he already learned. The only saving grace was his enthusiasm and aggression that he actively used against his sparring partners during class, in which they were now allowed to incorporate their quirks to a certain extent. He knew his girlfriend had a bit of a mean streak, but it was part of her charm. Besides, he could always poke fun at her in his own way. Or better yet, make her squirm and writhe in pleasure. Being back at the wooden post again, his hands more or less healed up. Pulling his wrapped hands out of the pockets of his hoodie, the beating against the post began in his desperate attempt to stave off the temptation to just barge into her room regardless of who happened to see him and kiss her up against the wall. But it was useless. The harder he exerted himself, the clearer the sensory details got. Jirou biting down on her lower lip, with that light, rosy blush and anticipating eyes as she looked up at him, her immaculate porcelain skin that got flushed with every kiss, making every bite mark and hickey stand out like paint on canvas. The natural scent mixed with the perpetual hint of chocolate, her lips making her taste like cake, and that husky voice that could rise an octave as she orgasmed again and again as his fingers. A loud cracking noise jolted him out of his zone. As he came to his senses, Izuku wiped the sweat from his forehead. Oh, shit. The post he had been beating mercilessly not long since everyone had moved into the dorms had a crack in it from the kick that landed, which had splintered the wood slightly. No amount of duct tape was going to fix that. Moving away from the post, Izuku switched over to shadow boxing, bobbing, weaving, countering, and blocking attacks, taking down a multitude of imaginary enemies for another half an hour. Still no change. He moved on to calisthenics, starting with jumping squats, swinging his hands up high into the air as he went airborne, counting to 323 before collapsing, his lungs protesting to stop. Ignoring the pain, Izuku swung his legs up against the post to do handstand push-ups. Just as he had gone through a dozen or so repetitions, a pair of toned legs in workout clothing came into view along with black sneakers. A familiar olive drab hoodie was wrapped around the waist. Figured you'd be back here. Standing back upright on his legs, Izuku turned around to see a wide-eyed Jirou with flared nostrils staring intently at him. Oh, Please, please tell me I'm not hallucinating or delirious right now. That would make my situation so much worse. You're not. It's me, Izuku. Kyoka. Izuku rasped. MMHMM. There were streaks of tears going down her face. Yeah, it's me. All me. Real deal. I know we said we'd put it off until this whole problem with Uraraka gets resolved, but I just couldn't, and I knew you definitely couldn't. FYI, your experiment was a shitty idea. I'm sorry. He pulled her into the tightest hug he had ever given anyone, as if to make sure she wouldn't just disappear in a puff of smoke should he loosen his embrace. It was her voice, smell, touch, everything. Like she said, it was all her, right here. All for him. I'm so sorry for ever suggesting it in the first place. Leaning against the post, he slid down to the floor, his burning legs giving out on him. Yeah, you better be. And there it was. The chocolate cake flavored kiss that smelled like her instantly riled Izuku up as his hands dove under her clothes. Oh my fucking god, yes, ugh, more. Do it more. They exchanged more kisses as they caressed each other through and underneath their clothes as they gradually began to calm down, avoiding the inundating desire from shattering the dam. Kyoka, I missed you so much. Shut up, I missed you infinity times more than you ever could. Taking your hoodie made it worse for me. I could sleep fine, but I couldn't feel contented. Izuku frowned, unsure of what she meant. What, you mean you need me to sleep next to you? Well, that too, but I can't exactly, get myself, off, because of you, she mumbled in his ear and chomped down on it hard. Ow, you, wait, ooh. He didn't know whether to be flattered or just laugh at her. Or both. Just shut up and kiss me again, nerd boy. I'll forgive you after that. Izuku was more than happy to oblige as he wrapped an arm around Jirou's waist, spun her around and pressed her up against the wall, gently. But upon hearing footsteps, Izuku stepped back a couple of paces. Hey, Deku. Can we talk? The three of us. Sure. Did you want to do this here, or? Yeah, here's fine. The sooner the better. I just need to get this off my chest. Taking a deep breath, Uraraka steadied herself as she first turned towards Jirou. First, I'm really sorry that I hit you. Even if you feel like you deserve it. I do. That doesn't make it right though. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. And I don't hate you. I was confused. I was hurt and didn't think straight when I said those things. I acted like a selfish bitch. If anyone deserves that label, it's me. Jirou corrected her. I never came to you about asking Izuku out. Well, you weren't his boyfriend back then, but you still were the one with sights set on him. I ignored common courtesy and just went for what I wanted without even thinking properly. And then I cornered you with other people being there when I was ready. What I did back there was arguably worse than you hitting me. Yeah, I need to apologize for that as well. Izuku spoke up, his eyes cast down at Uraraka's shoes. I roped Tokoyami and Todoroki into this when we should have just gone to you by ourselves, and yet we needlessly complicated matters, and ended up hurting you more in the process. I'm a terrible friend. No, guys. Look, we're new to this. To romantic relationships. Right. So, by that logic we can't really blame each other for taking the wrong path without knowing it was. We were all going about this wrong. Now we know that, so we adjust accordingly. She ran the back of her hand against her dampened eyes. I'll accept your apology as long as you accept mine. But this. Uraraka cut off Izuku. Shush. No. We're resolving this right now. You're going to fulfill 3 conditions, one of which is to accept my apology. Uraraka had that look again. The same look of determination Izuku was familiar with when she faced off against Bakugo. She was just as nervous and scared, but she was standing her ground against everything her mind was screaming at her to desist. He had to relent. Okay. Yes. I accept your apology. I hope we can still be friends after this. Well, that's up to us, right? I guess. Alright. Jirou relented as well soon after. Thank you so much, Uraraka. You can thank me by going to Dunkin' and getting me half a dozen of the chocolate mochi stuffed donuts they have for a limited time. That's my second condition. Done. We'll get you half a dozen. Each. Fair enough. Izuku nodded. What's the third condition though? Oh, yeah, that. This is more for Jirou than you, Deku. He's the first friend I ever made at UA. So make him happy, or I swear I will fight you and take him for myself. I'll make it my mission in life. Duncan's still open and there's still time before curfew. We can go right now and get you your donuts. Come on, Izuku. Why right now? Yes, Jirou said through gritted teeth. Let's go. Jirou half-towed Izuku away from the area, leaving Uraraka in solitude. With her back against the wall, she crouched down and sighed, a hand covering her face. A laugh came up from the pits of her stomach along with choked-back sobs as tears rained down from her eyes. She didn't know how to describe this feeling. It was happiness, at least partially. But it was something more than just that. It was inexplicable, but maybe that was for the best. For now, at least. Weekend. The much-awaited weekend was finally here. It was 11 a.m. at the Kiashi Ward shopping mall Wookiees, and Izuku was ready. He had asked Jirou to come wearing plain clothes. He was aware that plain left too much room for subjective interpretation, but there wasn't much that he could add in terms of specificity aside from telling her to use bland colors and coordinate them in a non-flashy way. Even over text messages, he could tell that she wasn't too keen on that, but was nonetheless excited for the first date in her life. Taking long, deep breaths like he were doing a yoga exercise, he checked his phone for what was probably the 20th time in the last 3 minutes. A slight tap on the shoulder made him flinch before turning around. There she was, in plain clothes, just as he'd hoped, which consisted of a white loose-fitting wide neck long sleeve with a big purple heart, blue jeans and boots. The neck area was so wide in fact, that it bared her right shoulder and a black strap. Is this plain enough for you? Why yes. Izuku punched himself mentally as he stuttered a little. He should be over this by now. But he had to sigh in awe at his girlfriend. No amount of plainness of mere clothes could ever put any sort of damper on her beauty. Now it is known. So, what exactly are we doing here? I was thinking we could give each other a makeover. Quote, comma, dot, dot. Run that by me again. Jirou said as she tilted her head to one side and began lightly smacking her ear with the heel of her palm like her hearing disappeared when Izuku opened his mouth. I was thinking of giving each other a makeover. We go to some stores, pick clothes for each other and we buy whichever outfit the person doing the picking liked the most. But just one. Which is why I asked you to come in plain clothes. You want me to pick clothes. For you. Anything I want. Within the bounds of good taste, obviously. As long as you don't try to make me wear a dress, a Pikachu onesie or anything ridiculous like that, yes, anything. There were some boundaries that he was not willing to cross, and he needed to make that clear. And you want to do that for me? Her perplexed look turned into a smile that would rival the Grinch in terms of how diabolical it looked. Oh, you are on. I am going to have a field day with you, nerd boy. You won't even recognize yourself when I'm through dressing you up. But you better make me look good. Izuku folded his arms across his chest, cocking an eyebrow. Kyoka Jirou, are you issuing a challenge? Hell yes. Who's starting? Lady's choice. Worst time to be a gentleman in my opinion, but your funeral. Let's go. Taking Izuku's hand, Jirou navigated through the crowd of people with him in tow. With the maps placed all over the district as a guide, they eventually found themselves at a cosmopolitan ethnic clothing store. The letters on the sign had a strange geometrical twist in its design, but was still legible and spelled Dora Milaje. Really? Here. Hey, I'm just following the date plan here. You don't actually have to buy anything. Come on, let's suit you up. Jirou rubbed her hands together in anticipation as she pushed the glass door open, causing the chimes to jingle noisily. Now let's see here. Izuku began browsing through the racks himself. He had spent about 3 days for a crash course on women's fashion styles, but in the end was forced to give up due to the plethora of categories and subcategories that pushed the envelope further. Looking for anything in particular? A store clerk asked with a slight accent to her voice. Oh, yes, I'm. Izuku stopped mid-sentence as he turned to the store clerk. The sheer explosion of colors emanating for her was like a flashbang going off right in his face, stunning him for a few seconds. Even with the height boosted with the heels on her pumps, she was at least a head and a half taller than him. Parts of her dark skin was covered in scales like a reptile, but even that seemed to give off a strange alluring sheen. Moreover, she looked absolutely stunning in her dress, covered in intricate patterns on the sleeves, around the collar, the hems, and even the sides as it ran down to the hip bones, but otherwise an immaculate white. Sorry. That looks amazing. It's a dashiki. Right. Very good guess, young man. Yes, indeed. I'm assuming you're here on a date. Yes, ma'am. Good manners as well. Tell you what, let me give you a hand. You're looking for something to dress her in, but I'm assuming you're at a bit of a disadvantage when choosing women's clothing. Yes, the 3-day crash course isn't really helping me much right now. Coming here was a major curveball. Well, your efforts are admirable nonetheless. Come with me. She took Izuku to the corner wall rack and within a few moments, pulled a dashiki dress like her own and a black, sleeveless dress with yellow patterns printed all over it. I think, one of these two will make her happy. Go on. Thank you so much, Izuku whispered as he accepted the hangers and walked over to Jirou, who was patiently waiting in front of the fitting room. Showing her what he wanted her to wear, a dust of pink materialized on her cheeks. Really? Sheath type? Izuku nodded in reply with a sly smile. You wear a lot of solid colors, so I want to see you go fush with more than just singular colors on one garment. These are the options I'm offering you. Pick one. Or both, if you're feeling gutsy. What did you get me? This. She held up an outfit that was almost entirely black. A black long-sleeve shirt and pants, a tunic with infinitely complex white embroidering complete with a vest that reaches his knees and leather sandals. What the? Alright, fine. Exchanging the clothing they picked from each other, they disappeared behind the curtains of the changing room. Izuku lightly tugged at the tunic that went up to about a fourth of the neck. It fit well enough and the fabric didn't cause any discomfort as it hugged his figure, but looking at himself in the mirror just made him want to go die in a hole. Honestly, this looked more like he was doing cosplay than anything else. Stepping out of the changing room, he stood face to face with Jirou, who immediately began reeling in laughter upon seeing Izuku. Oh my god, you look. She couldn't even utter complete sentences as she was gasping for air. Yeah, what's that say about your sense of style? Izuku muttered. But you look amazing though. It was true, she did. The tone of her skin could almost melt into the dress, and made her seem more radiant. Vibrant. And it most certainly brought the color of her eyes and hair out. Why you think so? Jirou alternated between looking at the mirror and Izuku. I mean, I can move around a little more in this one, and the dress has pockets which is very important, but I dunno. Still feels weird. Guess I'm just not used to this sort of style. Oh, and you think I don't feel weird? Izuku snorted as he pointed at himself. Weird is your thing. Different genre of weird. But anyways, that was round 1. Before we move on to 2, can I take a picture? Quote, comma, ... I really wanna say no, but only if I get to snap one of you. Fair enough. Promptly pulling out their phones, they both quickly snapped a picture of one another. Once that was done, Jirou disappeared into the changing room again, almost happily. Would you mind keeping this dress for me? Izuku whispered to the store clerk. I'm most likely going to come back at a later date to buy it. She nodded happily and gave him a thumbs up, mouthing a thank you to him. Now it was Izuku's turn as he gently took Jirou's hand and walked through the mall in search of something that would be the polar opposite of her tastes. You're not too much of a fan of dresses, are you? Not much, I guess. I mean, it's just one article of clothing, so it's less of a hassle, but it's also boring. There's no room for experimentation that can be done aside from footwear and an extra layer. What about you? You seem like a fashion noob with those shirts. Hey, Izuku frowned, a little hurt at that statement. I have a simple taste, okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I know, Jirou giggled as she hugged his arm to herself. But I have literally seen you wear a t-shirt that says, bathrobe, on it. Some people would take that as a personal affront to the concept of fashion itself. Like Ashido. Especially Ashido. Which is why we are having this trailblazing of new borders to expand our palette and wardrobe. I'll pick something less, you know. What you wore just then. Is that a promise? She thought for a bit before giving him a kiss on his cheek and snickered, don't count on it. Izuku felt his face grow warm and the corners of his mouth twitched as he desperately tried to stifle the dumb grin that was undoubtedly forming. You wanna try that place? Jirou's eyes followed where his finger pointed, which was the unisex boutique Sappho. Never been there before. Sure, we can look artsy together. Of the two of us, you're the artsy one as far as I'm concerned. Someone's jealous. You'll be on my level soon enough, don't worry. They entered the store, promptly beginning their search amongst the other shoppers. A rapid, incomprehensible conversation was going on in the back from a door behind the checkout line. Jirou could easily make it out thanks to her quirk, but she could only hear certain phrases due to the speaker being so quick with his speech. Something about not what he wanted, more photographs, and cover page worthiness. She and Izuku paid no attention to it until a man dressed in a monochrome tiger pattern jacket and indigo bell-bottom pants burst from the door, which made everyone whip their heads around. Aside from the music playing from the speakers, the entire establishment went dead silent. Tapping his red leather-gloved fingers together, the man scanned the room and quickly walked towards Izuku and Jirou. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but you two are students attending UA, no? Can we help you? Jirou asked cautiously. Actually yes. I am a fashion designer. Yukio Fletcher. I own this place and I was wondering if I could have 30 minutes of your time to be models. Models. Me. Us. We. Izuku blinked with a slack-jawed gaze at Fletcher at the sudden proposal. Wait a minute. Fletcher. As in Fletcher, the Flash, from Sapphoraxis. The lead vocal and bassist. Oh, you know my discography from back then. I'm quite surprised. It wasn't, well, pretty in the end. Goddammit Fletcher the fucking Flash. I am so sorry, I had to get that out. I don't mean to gush, but I absolutely loved your music. She jumped in place like a small child in utter glee, without a care that literally everyone was staring at her. I mean, you got me interested in music and playing bass in the first place. And yes, hell to the yes, we would be honored to help you and be your models. Wakio, Izuku was forced into silence as he winced in pain from Jirou's shoe digging into his foot. Ah, yes, let's do it. Oh. Wonderful. Follow me to the back. With Fletcher leading the way, Izuku was more or less dragged forcibly into the back as the door closed and locked behind them. There was an entire photo studio set up with cameras, lighting and other equipment at the ready. Now then, this will only take a moment. Pulling a tape measure out of his jacket, Fletcher began taking their measurements with the speed and dexterity that could very well match Aizawa in combat. Walking up to a rack of clothes seemingly in no particular order, he quickly pulled several off the rack along with a pair of black leather shoes and whisked Izuku away into another changing room. Jirou entertained herself by listening to the sporadic squeals and shouts of her boyfriend. In exactly 5 minutes, Izuku walked out, making Jirou's jaw drop. He was wearing a grey shirt with matching pants. The top 2 buttons were opened and the sleeves rolled up to show his toned arms, the scars adding to the emanating presence. A dark red tie loosely hung from his neck, tied properly. On top of that was a grey vest of a darker shade lined with black fabric which was visible due to its unbuttoned state, and was wearing black half-palm leather gloves, complete with several studs around the knuckle area. Even his hair had been styled to show his entire forehead and he had some eyeliner on. Jirou couldn't utter a word. He looked evil and hot. That was it. There were no other words in the world that exists right now which could possibly describe him accurately. He was generally more on the dorky, adorable side, but by some miracle he maintained that and managed to look like a villain out of a comic as well. How that was even possible, she knew not, but that mattered little right now because Izuku looked undisputedly sexy right now. And just looking at him was turning her on hard. I believe it's your turn now, young miss. I've already picked out the clothing for you while you were gawking at him. My assistants will fit you out. Oh, right. I'm sorry. Oh no, please. Stare away. It means I did what I intended to do. As Jirou was ushered into the changing room to be fitted out, Fletcher turned the camera on Izuku for some solo shots as he instructed him to sit on the easy chair with a leg crossed over the other. Now then, young man. I want you to give me a voracious smile. Voracious. Thinking quickly, Izuku did his best impression of an elated Bakugo during a fight that was going well for him, but was immediately met with rapid tongue clicks of disapproval. No. That is not you. I want your smile. I want to capture the primal nature, if you will, of a person. No matter how well we dress, how much we think we elevate ourselves above others, be it aesthetically, spiritually or otherwise, we are still animals with instincts. I want you to bring that basic nature to the forefront. Imagine something you want. Something you want from the bottom of your heart so desperately that you will undergo any means to win and covet it, fearing neither noose nor fire, foregoing no expense. Show me the face of desire. Okay. Taking a breath, Izuku concentrated. Something, no someone he wanted. Jirou. Kyoka, beautiful Kyoka, strong, artistic, affectionate, everything that someone even remotely attracted to females would want in a girl and more. And the after effects of going cold turkey had certainly turned a switch inside Izuku. He opened his eyes just as the curtain of the changing room rustled, and Kyoka emerged. His heart stopped. His lips curled and twisted wickedly as a spark compelled his pupils to dilate. Yes, Fletcher shouted as pressed down on the shutter from multiple angles. That's the smile. That is what I am looking for. Genuine. Perfection. No. Beyond perfection. Now hold that a little longer please. Take liberties with the posing too. All that matters is that smile facing the camera. Izuku just moved without any thought, lounging on the easy chair however he pleased like a spoiled cat. His smile widened into something pure want. With a finger, he beckoned Kyoka to come closer. Who was dressed in white and blue, a strapless thigh-length dress bordered with royal blue around the hem, the waistline with a ribbon, and around the top. Her shoes had been replaced by sandals with ankle straps and on her head was a white beach hat adorned with a blue bow and corsages made from lace which she was using to shield Izuku's gaze from her. Kyoka, let me see you. Please. His voice came out in a semi-growl as he outstretched his hand. From where he was sitting, the beautiful girl in white was just out of reach by mere fingertips. Oh okay. Taking a shuddering breath, she let go of the hat and looked up at him. Fletcher's assistants had applied a light layer of makeup and a subtle amount of lip gloss on her. She was like a flower. A newly bloomed lily or an edelweiss accentuated with blue. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now that the stage is set, the actors are in place, we can move on. Switch with her, please. Right. Izuku stood up and let Kyoka sit in the easy chair, but never took his eyes off of her. For you, I'm thinking prim and proper. Think of several posh poses. This wasn't too hard for Kyoka, considering her best friend was quite rich and posh, but bubbly at the same time, and Fletcher was absolutely ecstatic at how well it was going. Now, for the finale, the theme is possessiveness. I will give you free rein for this one. Give me magnificence. Izuku immediately walked over to Kyoka on the chair and whispered, sit on my lap. What are you planning? Nothing that special. As she sat down on his lap sideways, Izuku's arm curled around her stomach, while his fingers traced the outline of her face, his own merely inches away. He glanced towards the camera. Oh, yes, very good. I can see the beast acting up. Excellent. One more. Give me a big bang. Do you trust me, Kyoka? Izuku asked. Yeah. She had a worried look as the grin on Izuku's lips slightly unnerved her. Great. Turning her to face away from him, Izuku wrapped one arm around her stomach while his fingers of the other hand lightly curled around her throat. He peered from behind Kyoka to the camera lens. His eyes alone seemed to enunciate loud as a shout that she was his alone, and anyone who dares to challenge him on the matter will incur his wrath. She gasped slightly as the cold feeling of leather closed around her throat, but the warm breathing hitting the back of her neck reassured her nothing was going to harm her, and her earphones extended, wrapping around his wrist to keep it in place. Bravo. Bravo. This is nothing short of excellence. Magnificence. Thank you both so very much for your cooperation. My hope has been restored. Today will be a good day. It's noon now, so I say that's lunch. And the elapsed time is exactly half an hour. Great. Wow. That was a lot more exhausting than I ever could have imagined. Woof. Standing up, the couple breathed a sigh of relief but could not help admitting they did have a little bit of fun. Even if it was by accident. I need to send this out as quickly as possible. Oh, and do please keep the clothes you have on for yourselves, my token of gratitude for making my day. I left my card if you ever find the need to contact me later. Adieu. Before either one of them could say anything, he was gone like an arrow from a bow. I guess, that's a win for us. Izuku asked Kyoka. Like free food, free clothes is always a win. We both got an entire outfit from Fletcher, the Flash, so yeah. Today is a motherfucking win. You look great, just so you know. I know I didn't pick the clothes, but still. This new you is. I like it. She was desperately fighting her near out of control libido. There was nothing more Kyoko wanted in the world than to let him have his way with her right now. This date deserves that much at least. Why you two? Really princess at the beach like. Izuku mumbled, the blood flushing his face and lighting his head up like a Christmas ornament. Me, a princess. Kyoko couldn't help but laugh at that idea. Not that it sounded bad. Not at all, especially if the boy in front of him was the prince. Since when was corny sweet talking part of your repertoire? I'm aware it's corny. I couldn't think of a better phrasing, okay. Kyoko pressed her glossy lips on his cheek and forehead with the most beautiful wide smile Izuku had ever seen. It instantly healed his scarred ego. You know what? I don't feel like changing out of these yet. Mind escorting your princess a while longer? Not at all. Wearing his newly found voracious face on, Izuku pulled Kyoko up to her feet and they collected their respective clothing which was somehow already in a bag along with Fletcher's business card. Kyoko put on a smug face as the shoppers looked on at them in awe as they strutted out of the boutique. I have never, ever seen you fangirl like that before. Seeing it was cute and bizarre at the same time. Say what you want, but in terms of music, that man is the equivalent of All Might to me. And, wait, oh, fuck. What? You forget something over there. We can still go back. No, I kinda heard their conversation through the door. Something about photos, a cover page. I couldn't understand all of it, but it definitely has to do with a social outlet. And we just got pictures taken. And he probably knows us from the sports festival, so we'll definitely be credited. By name. Izuku felt his blood turn to ice as the bag fell to the ground, the strength in his fingers leaving him. Oh, shit. Oh no. Oh my god, once that magazine or whatever gets published and circulates, everyone is gonna see us. You know what? It's fine. We've managed to do this for almost 2 weeks. That's about long enough, I think. Besides, literally slightly less than half the class knows about us and the rest already had speculations going around, although it has cooled down a bit since, going cold turkey. But I'm done doing that. After this date, we might as well make out in front of the class. Okay, being in front of the camera has clearly distressed your mind. Are you sure I can't persuade you? Izuku asked, a nervous bead of sweat rolling off his face. You said you'll wait for me, and I'm saying I'm ready. Don't back out on me now, nerd boy. Get your newfound veracity on. By the way, what did you think about exactly when you pulled that face? You. Izuku answered simply, but with the unmistakable veracity Kyoko spoke of burning in his eyes. You and nothing else. Thanks. She only wished the hat was bigger so she could hide behind it. Are you hungry yet? Yes, and as luck may have it, I know a place where we can go. I'll tell you where, so keep your word and escort me. It's a recent find for me too. Alright, here it is. Kyoko indicated toward a neon sign after about a 15-minute walk. The shark fin. Really? That's so. What? She glared, daring him to badmouth the establishment. It's just. I dunno, doesn't really seem like a name for a restaurant and cafe with a terrace. More like a seedy bar that's a biker gang hangout. Or a place that serves really expensive Chinese food. Ow. Izuku received a punch in his shoulder for that. It's named after a kind of guitar pick, you insensitive clod. I asked so I know. How the heck was I supposed to know that? I'm not a musician like you. You are now, I taught you how to play acoustic and electric, so shut up. You're still guilty for bad-mouthing my favorite hangout. Would you forgive me if I buy lunch for the both of us? Fine. Plus dessert. Yes, your highness. After lunch, they went to watch a movie when they happened to be doing a rerun campaign of old movies, one of which was Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which Kyoko insisted Izuku watch with her, and they did. While it had its utterly ridiculous moments like the game effects, onomatopoeias usually seen in comic books and the premise of having to go through a string of people by rendering them into leaning towers of quarters, it was thoroughly enjoyable. He was even nodding and tapping his foot to the songs every now and then. Aside from the action, the story itself was compelling and deep, particularly about the hardship of romantic relationships, the power of love, and self-respect, albeit with a comedic flair. Kyoko, I am never going to be able to get over the fight scenes. Izuku shook his head with a smile. It's just, too many damn haymakers. It makes Kaken's look better in comparison. Ooh. Someone's finally throwing shade at that pretentious dick. Kyoka chuckled. Now all you gotta do is say it to his face. But it was funny, right? Yeah, it was. The arm around her shoulders tightened a little. But, man, all those quarters. You know how rich Scott would be if he actually took the time to collect all of those with his band. Not exactly the point of that artistic choice, but okay. The bank tellers would backhand you across the face if you showed up with that much loose change. I know I would. Probably. So, any favorite songs that were in that movie? As you know, mine is Threshold. I actually want to be able to play that song now, to be honest. And sing that. Singing you can do with me anytime. As for playing, all in good time. I'll teach you when you get better, K. Fair enough. They stood in front of the dorms as they took a breath. Well, we're here now. You want me to tell them, or do you want to? We'll let the situation decide. Fair enough. Here we go. Walking through the doors, the majority of their classmates stared at them with a slack-jawed gaze at the couple looking like supermodels straight out of a magazine. Daraaamn, Midoriya. Looking good. I didn't know you could pull off sleek and stylish. Why the hell didn't you do that more? It's a new trail I'm blazing for myself. And, you know what? I actually might do that. I'm having fun with it. Izuku gave Kirishima's extended hand a high five and a strong grip, the manly way that he prefers. Alright, I'm licking this new you, bro. And Jirou, holy shit, you. I can't find the words. You look great. Don't worry about it. Jirou, can the girls present here talk to you in the stairwell really quickly? Like, right fucking now. Ashido grunted through gritted teeth. With a shrug and a sigh, Kyoka followed her, Yaoyorozu, and Hagakure. It took barely 10 seconds before she screamed at the top of her lungs, why the fuck does Midoriya look so damn darkly hot and sexy now? Rabble rouses. Tokoyami muttered as he was sipping tea, first flush of Earl Grey acquired courtesy of Yaoyorozu, before taking a bite of the leftover pie. Who the devil is screaming so loud, for goodness sake? I'm trying to study. Sorry Ida. But you need to come down here right the fuck now with anyone you can grab and see Midoriya and Jirou in all the glory of their makeover. In about 10 minutes, the entire class of 1A, even Bakugo thanks to the persuasion of Kirishima, was there. Several of them were taking pictures of the two. I wasn't counting on Ashido bringing down the entire class, but you know what, who gives a shit? Izuku's words made everyone froze. Did Midoriya just curse? Kaminari said to nobody in particular. Yeah, I blame Kyoka, her foul mouth is rubbing off on me significantly. Not that I mind too much. Wait, Midoriya, you just called Jirou. Oh, my god, the speculations were true. And the truth shall set you free, Sero. Just so you know, we came back from our first date. Also, guess how my foul mouth rubbed off on him? With a smug smile, Kyoka pulled Izuku close by the tie and kissed him right on his lips, with tongue in full view of everyone. Holding up a peace sign, she declared, just like that. PDA for the win, bitches. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.